eternally grateful for the many blessings that you've given us, not only this day, this week, this year. We thank you for this great city. We thank you for this great state. And we thank you for this great nation. We pray also, we lift up the prayers in memorial this time of year for all those that have given their lives for their country. And Lord, we pray that the words of our mouths, the meditations of our hearts, and the things we say be pleasing in your sight. Forgive us of our many sins. In Jesus Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Move accepting the
Motion made. Is there a second? Approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. Ms. Whitby, call the roll, please.
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Dobbins?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
We're in communications. We've got 1 through 8, I believe. I don't think any other one was added.
Move accept the file.
Second. Anyone want any one of those pulled?
7, please.
7. All right. On the motion, Ms. Whitby.
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Dobbins?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Number 7 by title or in its entirety?
By title.
This is a,
It's not real long anyway.
okay.
Yeah.
This is a letter dated May 9th of 2002 to Mayor Patrick Henry Hayes, City Hall. Dear Mayor Hayes, the colleagues at the North Little Rock Health Department would like to take this opportunity to thank the City of North Little Rock for allocating funds to make some much needed improvements to the North Little Rock Health Department building. We appreciate the city's concern and recognition of the need for these improvements. The $40,000 that was allocated will be a start towards making some of the critical improvements that will enable us to better serve the citizens of North Little Rock. We realize that budgets are tight and monies are in short supply these days. We know that there are other needs in addition to ours, and we appreciate your generosity. Sincerely, Carrie Woods, Group Director, Group Leader, Arkansas Department of Health, and Deborah Hollis, Interim Administrator, North Little Rock Health Department.
Move we accept this file.
Second.
On the motion,
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Dobbins?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
we certainly want to underline our appreciation to Ms. Hollis. I don't think she's here, but she's served as the interim director of the health department, and obviously we are very pleased and thankful for the tenure of Dean Edwards. Even though Mrs. Hollis's tenure has been short, we're very thankful for her leadership down there. And now I might take a moment of personal privilege and introduce you to the new director of the health department, Carla Grayson. Carla, if you want to stand up. Many of you may or may not know her husband, Mike. Mike is a Main Street resident from a business standpoint, and Carla, both of them have long been very active supporters of the community, and we're very pleased that your new adventure will be helping the health and welfare of our citizens on a much more daily basis. We look forward to working with you as we have directly with Mike on many opportunities in the past. Welcome. Also, let me again, many of you heard us talk last council meeting about how on May 11th, 2002, our own charging Lady Charging Wildcats won their second Class A, not Class A, Class 1, 2, 3, 4, 5A, Class 5A state championship with a perfect record of 34-0. Last year's record was 25-5, and looking down the roster, we have 5 seniors, 4 juniors, 6 sophomores, and 4 freshmen, which means 14 of the roughly 19 members of that championship team will be coming back, and dare say I feel sorry for those who are on your agenda for our schedule, I guess would be a better word, next year. So we're very pleased to welcome these young ladies, and if I could come down to the microphone now, we've got a little something we'd like to share. I think Margaret is going to help me. First of all, I think before we start, I think it might be fitting that we all again collectively thank these young ladies for so aptly representing us over the last 2 years, and those that are coming back, we wish the best for next season too. So. And let me, before we call each of them up here, we have a trophy and a proclamation, and although this day is already gone, we're going to be giving each of you a day, and that day is the 11th of May, which is the day that y'all gave to us, actually, when you won the state tournament, and so even though you gave it to us, we're going to give it back to you, because that, I'm sure, will be remembered in your hearts and minds for many, many years to come. That's a glorious time and certainly a lot of joy. If I could ask, is Debbie Higgins and Sandy Boltinghouse here, who's the head coach and assistant coach, if y'all would come up and care to make a comment or two on behalf of the team, and then we'll go about sharing each of these trophies and plaques with each of you individually. And you are? Debbie Higgins. Debbie? Debbie is the head coach, so congratulations, Debbie. And I'll read this to you, and then we'll share each of those as the girls come up. That I, Patrick Hayes, Mayor of North Little Rock, proclaimed the 11th day of May, 2002, is Coach Debbie Higgins Day in honor of North Little Rock Lady Charging Wildcats' 34-0 perfect season and winning the 5A state championship in fast pitch softball. Congratulations, thanks again. Thank you. All right. If you want to make a comment or two, we'd love to listen.
Thank you, Mayor Hayes. I just can't extend enough welcome or thank you for having us here this evening, recognizing these girls for the tremendous season they had. As Mayor Hayes mentioned, we were 25-5 last year, won the state tournament, and all I heard after that year or after that season was, boy, they're going to be after you next year. And to finish with an undefeated season, 34-0, these young ladies outscored their opponents 350-44, I believe, in 34 games. Just had an unbelievable season. So I can't say enough about the job they did on the field and how proud I am of them. Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie, and we are too. That does sound like y'all just didn't go enough. You went way beyond. You didn't want to worry about anybody catching up with you. Let me ask the seniors to come up, and we'll do y'all as a group. Those of you that are here, Christina Ferguson, Jennifer Guess, Tamara Phillips, Mary Webb, and Valencia Young. All right, we got Jennifer Guess. Jennifer Guess, all right. And we'll get those, I guess you can carry those other. Jennifer, I think your dad is a little bit to do with our softball association, and we sure appreciate what you've done, and congratulations on to, have you got a scholarship? Did I understand that? The only thing bad about it is in Mississippi, right? All right. Well, congratulations. Do you have anything you want to say? All right. Bigger and better. We wish you well in Mississippi. You can just wait up here if you want. All right, juniors, Lindsey Gray, Brooke Grice, Sarah Scalia, and Whitney Webb. All right, Lindsay. All right, there, Lindsay. And Brooke. Okay. And Sarah. There you go. Well, we got all the juniors here. I'll tell you what. And Whitney. There you go. All right. Well, all together, let's give them a round. Would any of y'all like to say anything? All right, you're welcome. Okay, sophomores, Alandra Hatter, Sarah Hinton, Natasha, if y'all want to come on over here, Natasha Jimenez, Tracy Roper, Candace Sullivan, Jamie Terry. All right. All right, Alandra, it's you. Okay. There you go. Thank you. And Sarah? She's not here? All right. All right, Natasha? There you go. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. And Tracy? You are? Y'all gonna get them next year? There we go, and candles, there we go. And Jamie, there we go. Congratulations. All right, now let's give them a round of applause. And I am told that the freshmen are out having a good time on a summer afternoon like this. So we want to acknowledge Whitney Daniels, Christina Lockhart, Devin McQuain, and Lindsay Purcell. We sure do appreciate what they've done for us, and certainly those that are coming back next year, what they're going to do to continue that tradition. Thank you all very much for being with us, and we're very proud of you. Thank you.
Who drove these?
Thank y'all. Oh, it's our pleasure. We're going to come. Now, y'all make sure we know what the schedule is so we can come watch it. We've got, let's see, Alderman Yielding. I think you got some legislation while we're sharing some thanks to people. You want to call your legislation if there's no objection? You know what?
And it is, let me find the number.
88.
R0288.
This is a resolution recognizing Chloe Drysdale Warren and Julia Wood as top winners and commending all students of North Little Rock who participated in the 11th annual Preserve Our Past statewide art and essay competition sponsored by the Arkansas Historic Preservation Program.
You want to move for adoption?
Move for adoption.
Second. Before we call it, why don't you explain what this opportunity or honor is, and then we'll call it for a vote, and then I'll turn the floor over to you.
Okay. This is a contest with the Department of Arkansas Heritage and the Arkansas Historic Preservation Program, and it is about, they had an art division, they had a essay division, and our students at Amboy Elementary, Chloe is a student at Amboy, won first place in the art division, and this is a statewide contest on historic preservation. And Julia Wood of Crestwood Elementary in North Little Rock won first place in the essay division for her essay on the Baker House. And Julia Ransom of Crystal Hill Elementary for her drawing of the Argenta Historic District. And I'm sorry, Martin, how did you tell me? Alana Wells of Lynch Drive Elementary School in North Little Rock, who drew the Baker House, and Jasmine Clark of Lynch Elementary School in North Little Rock won an honorable mention in the essay division for her writing about the Rock Island Depot. A lot of this came about in their education on North Little Rock history and sites in North Little Rock from the History Commission's Teacher's Guide to Teaching North Little Rock History that we produced, and also from Sandra Taylor Smith, who works for the History Commission, going around to the North Little Rock schools and talking to the teachers and talking to the classes on North Little Rock history. And so we're very fortunate to have these students here tonight if they want to come up and be recognized. And the fact that, you know, these on a statewide essay contest and art contest, they were the overall winners.
Let them introduce themselves if you like. Y'all want to go over to the microphone and let Alderman Yielding give you all a chance to introduce yourselves. We sure would like to know who you are and tell you how much we appreciate your representing our community too.
Yeah, if you'll say your name and what you did.
You need to move the microphone down a little bit.
If you'll say your name and your what you won and what you did to win the award.
My name is Chloe Warren. I won a $50 saving bond for drawing a picture of Thomas Cemetery.
Okay. And if you can say whatever else, you're from what? Where do you go?
And
Amboy Elementary.
Okay.
My name is Julia Wood. I won a $50 savings bond on an essay of the Baker House. And
Where do you go to school?
Crestwood Elementary.
My name is Atlanta Wells, and
What did you do? What did you, was it a drawing or?
I drew the Baker House and painted it in watercolor.
Oh.
I go to the Lynch Drive.
All right.
My name is Jasmine Clark. I go to Lynch Drive Elementary, and I did an essay on Rock Island Depot.
All right.
We'd like to thank all the students of North Little Rock Elementary Schools, fifth grade classes, I guess is what this was, and that participated in this, and especially recognize the winners who are from North Little Rock. Thank you.
We appreciate y'all being here. Thank y'all. On the motion, Ms. Whitby.
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
All right, now I think we're ready for old business.
Resolution 0257, Mayor Hayes.
I'm going to withdraw that. That's our building that's going to be restored by our new member of the History Commission.
Resolution 0266, Alderman Thomas and Dobbins.
Please hold that. We're getting some quotes out there, and also our state representatives make sure we get some money.
Speaking of Alderman Dobbins, let me just take another moment and congratulate him. I think there's no opponent on the ballot in November. There may or may, well, we don't have any write-ins in North Little Rock. So, I think, very much that we're proud that Alderman Dobbins is going to be, we're sad but proud at the same time that Alderman Dobbins is going to be going over to the state legislature. He will indeed have a bigger job to handle in making sure that this city and community is well represented. We know it will be, and I think this is an opportunity for us to thank you as well as for your service for the remainder of the year, but certainly for what you have done as well as what you're about to do over at the Capitol.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Mayor. City Council, thank you.
All right, R271, I'm going to hold that.
0274.
We ready to go for those, Mr. Susky? These are condemnations. All right, I'll call it.
A resolution declaring certain buildings, houses, and other structures located in the city of North Little Rock to constitute a public nuisance and condemning said structures, providing a period of time for property owner to abate said nuisance.
I'm going to hold a public hearing. Now that's been called for, I get a motion. That's 121 East 12th Street. Is anyone here that would care to come address the council regarding the condemnation of 121 East 12th Street? The microphone's open. During the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second? Motion made and seconded on the motion. Ms. Whitby?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Resolution 0275, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution declaring certain buildings, houses, and other structures located in the city of North Little Rock to constitute a public nuisance and condemning said structures, providing a period of time for property owner to abate said nuisance.
Public hearing, that condemnation is regarding 1914 Parkway. So I'll open the public hearing. Anyone care to address the council on 1914 Parkway? Please come before the council, and the microphone's open. During that public hearing, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
On the motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Resolution 0276, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution declaring certain buildings, houses, and other structures located in the city of North Little Rock to constitute a public nuisance and condemning such structures, providing a period of time for property owner to abate said nuisance.
That has to do, that condemnation has to deal with 819 Magnolia. 819 Magnolia, open public hearing on 819 Magnolia. The microphone's open. None appearing. Adjourn that public hearing. Do I have a motion?
Move for adoption.
Second.
On the motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Resolution 0277, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution declaring certain buildings, houses, and other structures located in the city of North Little Rock to constitute a public nuisance and condemning such structures, providing a period of time for property owner to abate said nuisance.
That condemnation has to do with 1004, that's 1004 North 8th Street. Open the public hearing with regard to 1004 North 8th Street, the condemnation of that property. The microphone's open. Anyone care to address the council on 1004 North 8th Street? During the public hearing, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
On the motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Next item is ordinance 0219, Mayor Hayes.
I'm going to hold that.
This is the sixth time on the agenda.
Then we'll just let it die, and I'll bring it back next time.
Ordinance 0225, Alderman Yielding.
Call it.
This is an ordinance regulating the location of sexually oriented business. The second reading.
I believe we got an amendment to it also. You want to take the third reading first?
Who's got my copy?
One of the things that I know I had a chance. I know where are we on? We're on second reading.
We're on third reading.
Second reading.
Second? Okay.
We're on second reading. Did you just read it, Ms. Whitby?
Yes, sir. Just read the second time.
Okay, so right now there's nothing before the council.
His motion.
His motion.
What's your motion?
I had a motion to suspend the rules for the third reading.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on that? On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
Witcher.
Yes.
An ordinance regulating the location of sexually oriented businesses. Third and final reading.
Before Alderman Witcher,
That's okay.
did
Do you want to,
I have an amendment.
and I also have an amendment.
Okay.
And I have two questions.
All right. I tell you what, I know before I go on, and maybe some of these comments might be helpful as you discuss the amendments. I know Mr. Hilburn's in the audience. I had a chance to visit with him very briefly earlier today. And he might like to make some comments. Unless there's an objection, I'll turn the microphone over.
Can we amend it first?
Mr. Hilburn,
Yeah, as part of the amendments, that's up to the council. I mean, I would certainly like the chance to address the council, but if they want to.
why don't you come on the microphone and then we'll deal with the amendments.
And with the council mayor's permission, I may want to address the amendments after I hear the amendments. I guess this attacking an ordinance like this is sometimes a very indelicate position I'm placed in. The problem I have with the ordinance is that these people are businesses that have been established here, and under the language and what is the way I read the ordinance as it's presented to you is, in essence, these people have got 1 year to move their business out of the zone that they're in right now. And this can be done for any business. This city council can, talk about the public health, education, and welfare, and what's best for the citizens by using similar type language and rezone somebody else right out of a zoning that they've already got. The people I represent certainly, would like this not to be passed. But if something's going to be passed, what they would ask is that they have been in the business, they've got their business, they've got an investment made. And for them to have, within 1 year's time, to have to move from the business. And I would ask each of you if you, to maybe analogize it that if you all owned a service station and that in 1 year that service station can't be there any longer, but you made a tremendous investment in your business at that particular location. Now, I don't have any problem, and my clients prefer. But again, new businesses who are come in, who might fit the definitions of this particular ordinance, if they come in knowing what the rules are. The people who are here now didn't have these rules. They came in good faith, made their investment, and have operated their business. And to my knowledge, you can, I don't want to really get into specifics of attacking maybe some of the language in the particular ordinance. I think I'd rather address it from the standpoint of these people who have their businesses, that they in essence be grandfathered in. And what happens, as I'm sure the city attorney, is if they're grandfathered in, then what they in essence become is a non-conforming use. And so long as they operate that business as they have been operating it, then they can continue to conduct their business at that particular location. If they ever cease to operate their business in the fashion to which it's being operated right now, then they lose their non-conforming use, and no business like that can then be located on that piece of ground. It would have to conform to the language of the ordinance. So in essence, I think what you're doing, there may be 2 or 3 establishments in the city that this is affected. If you think about in the case law, and I'll try not to bore you, but generally what you see in the big cities is where they take a strip of property, and let's say like JFK, and there's business after business after business after business of these type that are located either across the street or right next door to each other, and they, I guess for lack of a better word, become a red light district. You don't have that here. You can pass this ordinance and grandfather the people who have their businesses in, and then you don't ever have to worry about what as I read this, you're seeking to prevent. In other words, a red light district with the passage of this ordinance by grandfathering these people in. The way I understand it, there is maybe, and I don't know what I call it, I don't even know what the name of the club is. It may be the Checkmate Club. I don't know if this fits their definition. The Gentleman's Club, which is the old top hat in the Club 70 out there, which has been there, I'm 60 years old, and it's been there ever since I've been here in Little Rock. They've operated out there. And then there is one out on Crystal Hill Road, which I don't think is in the corporate limits of the city of North Little Rock, but is within the planning jurisdiction of the city of North Little Rock. And as far as I know, that may be the ones that are directly affected. I can see as an attorney you might make an argument under some of the language for the movie theaters, because the movie theaters also, and again I'm trying to be not indelicate or delicate as best I can. I don't mean to be indelicate, but they show maybe a lot more skin than what you would observe in some of these establishments. And I don't think by any stretch of the imagination you're intending to have these movie theaters move from their location here in the city. I certainly understand and appreciate what I believe to be the thrust of the legislation is the prevention and creation of what you would characterize as that red light district. So I guess what I'm asking Mayor and members of the City Council is that, one, you grandfather these people in, and what I would prefer, although you're on the 3rd reading, is that give me some time to try to visit with my clients, and so that I maybe can visit with Mr. Yielding. If you'll recall, y'all referred this to the Planning Commission, and I think this, I believe, is the first meeting that y'all have had since it's been referred back to the City Council. Well, I was out of town last week, but on trying to see what changes or recommendations that the Planning Commission might make to y'all, we wanted to wait to see what they did before we could address y'all as to what changes we would propose. And so I would like, I think maybe you have a rule and regulation of the council that's something, if it's on the calendar for a certain length of time, then if it's not acted upon, it fails and has to be brought back up. And if you're at that point on this legislation, I think, Mayor, you just withdrew a piece of legislation, but it can be filed again tomorrow and taken up in 2 weeks. I would prefer that it stay on the calendar if you can keep it on the calendar for 2 weeks. If not, maybe give us 2 weeks to visit with Mr. Yielding, who's a sponsor, or any other alderman to discuss possible alternatives. And I apologize to Mr. Yielding that I haven't, because one, I was out of town last week. And then we were waiting to see what the Planning Commission, what recommendations they may or may not make. As far as the substance of the ordinance, I don't see that they made any changes. I think that they had some concern about the sunset provisions, and I can stand to be corrected, but other than that, I don't know that they did anything else after their hearings. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that the council might have.
Don't see any. Thanks very much, Mr. Hilburn. I think we're in order for motions.
Well, amendment. I have 2 questions, but after we get all that.
All right. Who wants?
Okay, on I have an amendment.
Can you state the page that you're?
Page 6, section 5. Insert the date in line 1 of May the 25th, 2002.
Should be 28.
28, I'm sorry.
Where are you doing this, man? On page 6? Okay.
Section 5, line 1.
What's your date?
May the 28th, 2002.
You want to get both amendments at the time, or there 2?
There's only one amendment.
Is there any other amendments? Is there a second to that motion?
I second it.
Any discussion on the motion, Ms. Whitby?
Gibson?
Yes.
Gilding?
Yes.
Dobbins?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
Witcher?
Yes.
Alderman Witcher?
Okay, I'd like to make an amendment also in Section 5, Item 1,
What page is that?
page 7, second line, under nonconforming uses, the nonconforming use will be permitted to continue for a period not to exceed, and it currently reads 1 year, and I would like to move to extend that to 5 years from the date of the passage of the ordinance.
Any other discussion? Where's the second? Is there a second on that?
Second.
Any discussion on that amendment?
I have a question because I'm trying to catch up with where you put that.
On
Page 7, the second line, changing
Top of the page.
period not to exceed 1 year for a period not to exceed 5 years.
Does this mean, does this amendment then allow an additional one to go in
No.
within anywhere in the city that they could go into at this point?
No, this only applies to the present non-conforming establishments.
Susky, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It would make them, upon adoption and the effective date of the emergency clause, then at that point in time, the existing businesses regulated by the sexually oriented business ordinance would have 5 years. And at the end of the 5 years, it would be the city's position, they would need to alter their business or move.
We're on the motion to amend.
Okay, now, and I will also say, Mayor, that was an arbitrary figure that I pulled out of the air. Along with this, there still is recourse with particularly the existing clubs. If for any reason they have any licensing problems, whether with the ABC and/or with the city, if those licenses are pulled for a period of 90 days or more, then they also then would fall in the category of being non-conforming, and they'd have to pull out those businesses. And I also want to talk about what came out from the Planning Commission, but I realize that this isn't the appropriate place to do that.
We've got a motion to amend changing 1 to 5. Is there any further discussion on that, Alderman Gibson?
I guess my question of the entire procedure, and it has to do with that one. Number one, has this passed legal? You're comfortable with the ordinances as written?
Yes. I mean, there could be some factual determinations made to, in accordance to the impact it has on residences, but this ordinance is identical to one that's been upheld by the 8th Circuit.
Okay, and the letter from planning indicates that it did pass planning. So that was the other question. And the third comment, 5 years is too long, Mr. Witcher. there has to be maybe somewhere in between there.
You know,
But I personally won't vote for 5 years.
and I'm amiable to.
Did I hear you say 3 years, Alderman Witcher?
That's fine.
I heard Alderman Witcher revised his to 3 years. Did Alderman Height, did you second 3 years?
I second 5 years. I didn't second 3 years.
You don't just withdraw. Let's talk about the
Okay.
timetable, if
All
we
right,
may.
Mayor, I'd like to withdraw my motion.
All
at
right,
this
motion
point.
withdrawn.
Let's talk about a timetable. I have some concern about, and while I disagree with the attorney, there's nothing that the 8th Circuit has said that we can have a service station close. Even though he is sometimes my attorney, I don't always agree with him. But they do need a reasonable time. And maybe 1 year is too quick, and maybe 5 years is too long. But there needs to be somewhere in between there that they have an opportunity not to close, but to change the aspects of their business. And having grown up on Highway 70 and know how bad that area has been, not just for a few years, it was so bad that my parents required me to walk home from the bus station, the bus turnaround, down the railroad track rather than walk down Highway 70. So I have a long degree of experience of some of the things that have gone on out there. Those people have probably suffered more than anybody else needs to. 5 years is too much. 2 years is probably would give them time to seek another location that's allowable under this, and to also meet the other guidelines or change their business.
There's nothing on the floor right now.
Well,
so-
I move that we change it to 2 years.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on 2 years? On the motion, Ms. Whitby?
Gibson,
Yes.
Yielding,
No.
Dobbins,
No.
Thomas,
No.
Barry,
Yes.
Vestal,
Yes.
Height,
We're going to vote no, but I have an amendment.
Witcher.
Yes.
The vote is 4-4.
Mayor gets to vote.
You rarely get to do this, Mayor.
He doesn't want this.
Mayor votes yes.
Okay.
Now, my amendment.
You've got the floor.
Well, I want to, and Mr. Susky helped me with the wordage on this, but I'd like to see us put some words in there that would grandfather these 3 establishments, and that would make it that if they change ownership or change, in any shape, form, or fashion, change ownership of those 3 businesses, that then they would be required to move, but not until.
Give me a tough one right on that spot.
Okay?
I want to second this one so I can vote against it also.
That's fine. That's fine. I guess I'll throw my 2 cents in while you're doing some thinking. I disagree with the purpose of this ordinance. I believe that these 3 businesses, so be it as what they are, have a right. I mean, they made an investment several years ago, and they have a right to, they have a right to maintain that business in its present locations. And then we come along here in 2002 and try to change the rules on them and force them to move to an area that I'm not even clear as to what the area is on this map that we're going to ask them to move to. Plus, it's my knowledge also that in these areas that the Planning Commission has provided to us as far as locations that we could house these establishments, is that not where the rehab centers for juvenile sex offenders is located? In the same areas?
I don't believe it is.
You don't believe it is? Or
I know it's not.
You know it's not?
Yes, I do.
Can you show me where?
I've looked at the map. I went down and saw the color map.
Is Mr. Voiles here?
No, but, and this might be a good time. Sean Spencer. Sean, welcome to Planning Commission. Sean is a recent employee that was hired. He's Mr. Voiles' chief assistant, and Mr. Voiles is on vacation this week, so welcome to City Hall and welcome to the city's workforce.
I do have color maps. I thought they would give you color ones.
Sean, help me out here.
On the question, it's this map is the same map as the sexual offenders map. They, for the most part, have the exact same ordinance and 1,000 feet from all those buildings. So it may be the sexual offender does not mention natural or historic places, but it's for the most part exact same map.
Okay, now.
So how many different locations do we have in those areas in that?
There are 16% of the city is available for that, and I have smaller versions of this if you'd like to look
What
at it.
color is the available color?
The light green here, and there's 27 different locations, varying acreage. But if you were to total them all together, it would equal 16% of the city's area.
All right, Mr. Susky, do you have Mr. Heights, Alderman Heights' amendment?
Yes, what I would recommend is, I'm hesitant to want to give any advice on the transfer of business. I think it gets a lot more complicated, and at this point in time, I would recommend that you address that issue at a later meeting. I don't feel comfortable getting advice without research. But as far as allowing the businesses to continue, my suggested amendment would be on page 7. Top of the page, first paragraph, not first full paragraph. But essentially, we would delete wording in that sentence. And basically, it would read as follows, the last sentence of the first paragraph on page 7. It would say, the non-conforming use will be permitted to continue from the date of passage of this ordinance unless sooner terminated for any reason or discontinued for a period of 90 days or more. So essentially, what we do is we delete out for a period not to exceed 1 year. That would be removed from the existing language.
Well, now, actually, that was just amended to say for a period not to exceed 2 years.
That's correct. No, of course, it'd be 2 years now.
But you're suggesting that he amend that out?
Yes, by deleting to continue for a date from the passage of this ordinance. Delete that out. This will allow the existing businesses to be non-conforming uses.
Would you just read that then as you see it amended? Because I'm...
Yeah, the non-conforming use will be permitted to continue from the date of the passage of this ordinance unless sooner terminated for any reason or discontinued for a period of 90 days or more.
Okay.
What did you just say in layman's terms?
In layman's terms, these businesses are grandfathered and they can stay unless they cease operation for 90 days.
Cease operation or change ownership? Which you said...
Change ownership is not addressed, and I would advise at this point in time I can't give you good advice on that. I think it gets a little more complicated to property interest and so forth.
I think, Alderman, what the city attorney is suggesting is if this is adopted and you can consult with him later and come back in terms of an amendment on that, that he's not ready to give you advice on that issue at this point.
All right.
I have a question then. If I understand right, then these could be here forever.
If that's adopted, that's correct. Now, before we really
But no new ones.
Hold on, before we start talking about it, let's just see if there's a second to that proposed amendment.
Well, I'll second it because I want the
Okay.
opportunity.
But you want to vote against it
Now you got the floor.
This would mean that these 3 that we refer, is it 3? Is it number 3?
That's my knowledge. There's
Okay.
3.
There's 3. That they could
Correct
be
me if
here.
I'm wrong.
They could be here forever, based on your amendment.
Based on my amendment, without, at this point, we haven't addressed the ownership or the change of ownership or the change of...
Well, a corporation. These are probably all 3 corporations, and so there's no ownership ever happens. The corporation remains in business.
Corporations sell businesses.
They usually buy the whole thing
Corporations
if there's
buy
a permit
corporations.
involved. Anyway, I'm ready to vote on it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion to amend? Ms. Whitby?
Gibson?
No.
Yielding?
No.
Dobbins?
No.
Thomas?
No.
Barry?
No.
Vestal?
No.
Height?
Yes.
Witcher?
No.
Motion fails.
Move for adoption as amended.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Discussion? on the
Yes, I have
Please,
discussion.
Mayor.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. All right. I think item number 2 that came back from the Planning Commission, number 2, fee fisheries number 2, we didn't discuss that. We passed over it when we covered the other items. It concerns me that, I guess one of the items or one of the things that I thought we were aiming at was to try to limit these locations and the businesses. And it really concerns me that there is so much property available under the I-2 zoning. Mr. Shielding, you need to be listening to this. I guess what I am suggesting to you is that we draw even a tighter rein on these particular establishments being established throughout the city. I mean, under this scenario, there's 4,000 or 5,000 acres that's available for new establishments. You know, and I don't think that's what any of us are interested in seeing. And so I guess what I'm proposing to you is maybe we need to go back to the drawing board and tighten down and have a specific zone for those specific businesses and tighten those areas down and designate some or let people try to get those things zoned in. And really that would be my preference in the way to handle these instead of giving them so much latitude. I mean, there's way too many acres in this city to be established.
Let me suggest again that we're talking about the passage where if there's no amendments on the floor, so this is passage as amended.
That's correct. And under this passage, Mayor, there's 5,000 plus acres that's available for these establishments in the city. And I want to make
now it's the whole city.
Wait, hold on just a second.
Well, yeah, but
wait a minute. All right, now Alderman Witcher, you got the floor until you give it up.
Okay. So I would guess, or provided we go ahead and pass this tonight, what I would like to do is see us come back with a different zoning specifically for these oriented businesses with no areas presently designated, and anybody who wanted to come in would have to come to this council and the planning commission and seek that specific zoning for these establishments. And that way we can control who came.
I think that'd be, I think that would be great if we could do that, but I'm not so sure legally if we can just say we have an S1 zone and you have to be in that zone, yet we don't have any land zone S1 in the city, and we're going to decide where it's going to be.
Let me just interrupt right now. That does sound like it's talking about a future amendment. So I'm going to kind of rule that discussion out of order.
That's fine.
Witcher, anything else? Because anybody can come back in with amendments anytime down the road. Alderman Yielding, did you have anything?
No,
Alderman Dobbins?
My concern, I agree with Alderman Witcher, but speaking to passage of this, with the passage of this, would this mean we could put one of those businesses next to a rehab center for people who are trying to recover from this type activity or whatever?
Exactly.
So I'm trying to figure out where I'm at on this, because I was on the planning commission way back when we tried to move this out in the 90s. And somehow the Supreme Court struck it down. No. However, if this doesn't really change that, I don't know. I agree we need to have something a little tighter on that, and that speaks to something future. But to answer that question, would this mean that you could locate this business in some other area than they're currently located at right now with the passage of this, or will they have less room to open up a business like this with the passage of it?
Yeah, with the passage of this ordinance, new businesses, or these moving as it's currently informed before the council, will have to move or be located in the light green area. That's a much smaller area. Kind of going back to what Alderman Witcher indicated, this is a First Amendment issue. We cannot ban them. That would be struck down as unconstitutional. So what you have to do is limit the areas that they can be open and operate in, and under this ordinance, we feel this is a safe way to limit the area they can be in.
I remember. I was just going to interject. I remember we tried to limit them to I-3 at some time ago in the 90s. Now, which Robert Boyles was here. You had exact information on that, and somehow that was struck down. So do you think we know how to do it better now?
I think the key is, on that one, we pursued it through criminal courts, and a judicial ruling could not be appealed because of the nature of it. This time, when it comes to litigation, if it reaches that point, we will seek a civil route where we can appeal to the state Supreme Court or the U.S., even if it would hear it.
Okay, Alderman Vestal and then Alderman Hyde.
Alderman Yielding, I would like to give them the existing circumstances with the amount of acreage and the direction that this city is going to have a chance to expand to, the areas that are allowed for this sit at that corridor on both ends of this city, where you come in and out of this city, and where we're hoping to expand and attract new residences and new commercial enterprises and stuff along those natures. I would take it as a personal favor if you would hold this legislation for 2 weeks so we can try to iron out some of these things at all possible.
Well, now look, we've looked at this with planning, with the city attorney's office. You cannot ban these. They have the right to be there. So you have to do it in such a way. We want to make it so there's the least amount of land as possible. And I believe we are there. I mean, we are there. And believe me, if there was a way to make it any less, I would. If there was a way to make it none at all, I would, and they could just all be in Little Rock and none in North Little Rock. And they're in the county, and that'd be fine with me. But we can't do that. They have a right to be there, but we have a right to regulate them. I have looked. Like I said, I've talked with Robert. I've talked to the city attorney. They've done extensive research. They've done research on the 1-year sunset. The city councils across the country have been upheld down to 6 months to relocate on that issue. But on the issue of the zoning, we really can't go any less than what we're going now. Now this is industrial land. Okay? This is industrial zoned. This is not I-1, this is I-2 or I-3. And it's land that's in areas that's probably going to be used for industrial purposes. It's not around houses, it's not around churches and schools and places like that. I don't know where else to go to make it any less than it is, because if we could make it any less, then that's what I would have done. But we need to do something about I think this is a quality of life issue, and I don't believe people want strip clubs. I think it's pretty simple.
Let me make this suggestion. It sounds like that we're going in the direction of talking about. Of course, you wanted to hold it, and that's certainly
bring something back up.
That's certainly a legitimate request, and that's a possibility, or obviously, a possibility of coming back in at a later date and amending what we do tonight. With that, Alderman Vestal, the floor is yours. Oh, sorry.
I've just basically it kind of ditto what Alderman Vestal said. We've got 3 zones. If I'm reading this map correctly, you got 3 areas: Area 27, Area 10, and Area 4 has a substantial number of acreage where these businesses could each establish in each of those 3 zones. Is that correct?
Yeah, here's your color map.
Okay, but thank you. But is this the zone? Is this the area though that the Planning Commission is recommending? 27, 10, and 4.
It's not recommending. These are the areas that are zoned.
All right,
I-2 or I-3.
Largest amount of land's available in those.
Yeah, that number 4 area is owned by the federal government. I don't believe they're going to be having strip clubs out there.
Okay, you used the word probably a minute ago. What's the likelihood?
Probably about what?
That these areas would not be rezoned in the future?
Well, that's up to you, as long as you're sitting on the city council.
Well, so my question is we come here 5 years from now, 6 years from now, 4 years from now, 2 years from now, and rezone these areas, they got to move again?
Look, if you want to vote for strip clubs, you can vote the way you want to vote. I mean, we can talk about this and muddle through it. I've told you, if we can make the least amount of land that we can use is here. We've done the research. Legal's been through it. They know what they can defend. They've searched the whole country. They've talked to city attorneys and planning departments everywhere. This is the best we're going to be able to do. Now, I suggest that we pass this tonight, and if you can make it any more restrictive, I'll help you do it. But I'll tell you that right now, this is the best that we can do. I understand what you're saying, but this is the best that we can do.
All right, Alderman Vestal and then Hyde again.
Alderman Yielding, I take offense at the fact that you would think that because I don't like the amount of acreage in here that I would vote for strip clubs in this city.
Well, you can take it.
I have the floor, sir. That is what you indicate.
That's fine.
Now, I'm going to vote for this. I asked you to hold it, but I will vote for this legislation in its current format. And if there's a way that we can come up with something on the ingress and egress exits of this city, then so be it. I would be more than happy.
Well, can I comment? I only make that comment because we're under a situation right now where they could be anywhere, okay, in a lot of different places, and this makes it more restrictive. So, understand that there's people that are being paid to represent these people, and they don't want it passed at all, and that's why, I make the statement like that. However, this is doing something to restrict it more and try to clean up the city, and that's what it's doing. We cannot ban them. They have a right to be there in the First Amendment. We have a right to regulate them. That is what I'm saying. Yes, I will work to come up, although we've done a lot of research to try to make it smaller. But remember, these are industrial zones, so these are areas where industry is currently located, heavy industry, and it's areas that are currently zoned for heavy industry. A lot of that came into the city up there in that area too, up there close to Maumelle, as industrial. Y'all have came in with resolutions or ordinances rezoning a lot of that for residential, because really, that's where what seemed to go to is R4 apartments and R1 single family, and that's probably going to continue to happen, in that area. And also, someone's got to sell it to them or lease it to them or something, knowing that that's what they're going to put in there too. So there's essentially other hurdles that are going to have to be jumped over, besides just the fact that, this is an I-2 zone, I can go and, put a strip club in here. So, but I agree with what you're saying. I'm just saying this is an opportunity to do something. We've looked at everything, and this is the best we can do. Yes, I'll come back and make it more restrictive, but we have to do that through zoning. We cannot create a zone for these businesses and then say, okay, we'll pick out a zone and put it there, because I don't know anybody that would vote. Somebody come up here and said, I want to open one up. Will you make me a zone for one? Who's going to sponsor that? I'm not, but so you can't do it that way. You've got to have a place for them. And that's what we're doing.
Alderman Height and then Alderman.
That was my question, I'm not voting to ban. I don't think we're voting to ban these type of clubs or businesses in North Little Rock. We can't do that. But why don't we set aside a parcel of land in North Little Rock that these clubs can operate in one of these areas and say,
you just can't do that.
It can still be all over the city.
The advice, Alderman, from our lawyer is that you can't do that. You can set 14%. Who's to say that 13% wouldn't be okay, or who's to say 12? But but you're starting to get every movement you make in totally banning them from our community is putting at greater jeopardy the risk of the validity of this legislation.
Well, then I guess
14%. I think our city attorney, having researched past case law, feels that that's a reasonable part of your city to make affordable, and that would be fairly defensible.
I understand what you're saying, but I guess it goes back to my question, then what would prevent us as a council from coming back 2, 4, 6 years now and rezoning the land that they relocate to and them having to move again?
You'd have to ask our city attorney what that issue would be. I'd say that, go ahead.
See, then you got situations where they would run into it. For instance, if they moved and then the city grew in that direction, then at that point in time, there's a case law out there that they were there first. So then they would be allowed to stay if people move towards it. Now, it's if you pick up and you go to they go to you, that's where we restrict it. So I think the key thing to remember is, we have a lot of areas of the city where they would be allowed, but in time, rezoning may affect the percentage of the city that they can't move to. So that's something you got to constantly realize, that you talk about the entryways to the city. Well, the city's going to move out there, and there's going to be residential or commercial businesses that can affect the way that they can operate, and they won't be able to operate there.
Like a church or a school, or.
And then Alderman Dobbins.
The only thing, and I think we learned a lesson many years ago when we saw a pretty office building on JFK, and I believe it was at Cary or somewhere, that they just needed a C4 to put it there, and we got an office, and we didn't get an office building, we got a billboard. I think we have to, as a city council, understand when someone comes in with C4, which I basically always ask the question, we got to be have the same concern when someone wants to change property to I-2 or I-3. There has to be a purpose for that, and we look at those rezonings very carefully, just like we do now for those people who want to go in C4. We rarely zone a piece of property Z4. We will special use a C4 use and a C3 or a C2. That's our way of regulating what goes into there and keeping the quality of life in these neighborhoods without having to put something in a couple of instances where we've done it.
Alderman Dobbins?
Currently, I'm hearing people say that they can locate their businesses anywhere. I don't know how true that really is. Currently, what happens if someone wanted to put in a SOB?
We tell them we have an ordinance that's in effect on the books. I think if we ever litigated that ordinance, there would be some legal challenges we would have, considering you have a court that's not a court of record that's declared it unconstitutional. This will help protect us. Currently, we have some problems enforcing it, because we have a court order out there saying our existing ordinance is unconstitutional. I totally disagree with that opinion, but we could not appeal from it when that ruling was given.
So they could locate their business right down on the river then?
We could attempt to stop them. They would have some good arguments to say we can't.
But with the passage of this SOB would still have to come before the Planning Commission, still have to get approval. Am I correct in that? Or now that it's rezoned, they can just buy a parcel of land and put it...
They can still do that.
Yeah, if they're zoned properly under this current ordinance, if they're zoned properly and outside of the 1,000-foot limitation, they could go in and just have to get a permit. If they're not zoned properly but outside the 1,000 feet, they'd have to get rezoned.
So then all the light shaded green areas are...
I'm through.
Go ahead.
All right, Alderman Hung.
So the light shaded green areas on this map are areas that those establishments can relocate to?
Yes, they could go in, get a business license, and open up.
And a new business could come in town and relocate and locate in these areas too,
Sure.
right?
Yes.
Ms. Whitney, do we have a motion for adoption on third and final yet?
Yes, sir, as amended.
All right, on the motion.
Gibson.
Vote yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
It helped. Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
No.
And Witcher.
Yes.
It's adopted as amended on the emergency. Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Next item,
Next item is new business resolution 0280. Mayor Hayes.
please call it.
This is a resolution appointing Philip E. Davis to the North Little Rock Housing and Building Board of Adjustment and Appeals.
Have a
Move
motion.
for adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson.
Sorry. Oh, yeah.
And we need to amend in the personal information sheet. I'm
That's
sorry.
part of the motion for adoption. Without objection, this personal information sheet will be attached as an amendment. On the motion to adopt without objection, the attachment has been placed accompanying the legislation.
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
Witcher.
Yes.
Philip, Phil, you out there? I don't see him.
see him. That's what I was looking for.
But we sure appreciate it. He's very active in the community and across Phil's trail very frequently, and we sure appreciate his service on this board. Next item,
Resolution 0281. Mayor Hayes.
please call it.
A resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a real estate contract to purchase certain real property along the Arkansas River on which the north portion of Rock Island Railroad Bridge is located, appropriating $100,000.
Let me ask for a motion to adopt. I've got an amendment.
I'll make the motion to adopt.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. We've got an amendment. Alderman Gibson.
On bringing in Exhibit A, which is the contract that was on our desk tonight.
If we can go ahead and amend this, and then we'll explain it. Motion made and seconded to amend. Ms. Whitby on the motion.
Gibson,
Yes.
Yielding,
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
Witcher.
Yes.
All right, let me, Bob Harden, Bob is representing Mr. Glover, and Bob is in the audience. We had an opportunity, not last week, but late the week before, to visit, and I certainly want to thank Bob, certainly again, his client, Roy Glover. We had a very productive opportunity to have several visits with Bob and Roy, along with the Glover family, and many of us will recall that there were some fanfare of publicity that arose as a result of the Mr. Harden's appearance before this council a couple of weeks ago concerning the ownership of the bridge. As we all know, I've certainly been encouraging this council, and the council's been supportive of the city acquiring the property up to the downriver side of the bridge, principally in order for us to have access to the southern end of the trail system, along with preserving the public's opportunity to partner with the Clinton Foundation that is going to spend somewhere around $3 million, along with $1 million the city of Little Rock has appropriated, and then it's my understanding they're going to put $1 million in trust for the continued preservation and operation of the bridge from the foundation's perspective. So it's obviously very important to this community to preserve that donation from both the city of Little Rock, certainly more so from the foundation, to renovate and to make that bridge available for pedestrian use. There is a great amount of interest in the development of the real estate surrounding the north end of the bridge, because that's probably one of the few areas that's remaining in terms of riverfront development, not on our side only, but that is a very advantageous area. There was some concern, still some, but not nearly as much as there was, with regard to the foundation's position in light of a questionable title to the bridge and/or some of the real estate surrounding the north end of the bridge. In the negotiations that we had with Roy, as well as Mr. Harden, it was fairly clarified that assuming a variety of things were moved forward in a positive way, that Mr. Glover would give up any interest that he might have in that bridge to the city of Little Rock, and that the city of North Little Rock would then purchase about 2 acres, I believe. I think that's in the neighborhood of the real estate. An acre? No, it's an acre. A little less than an acre. Yeah, a little less than an acre of property. And I arrived at the $100,000 figure by having an appraisal done that valued the land at roughly $2.15 a square foot. That came out to around $90,000. As the council recall, in order to avoid any, potentially avoid litigation and legal disputes, I put a factor of 10% in that, and thusly we came up with roughly $99,000. We rounded off to $100,000. Mr. Glover accepted that amount, but there were several things that he was very interested in partnering with the city in moving forward. So there were several conditions, or conditions, I guess, is a pretty fair word, that he asked that the city partner with him if indeed he was inclined to move forward, obviously, with the development of that property. Those are contained in several of the items that are referred to in number 3, talking about conditions to close. The first one is that the city would support a rezoning of the Glover property, certainly that property in that area, to a C6. A C6 is the exact kind of development that I think this community supports in terms of commercial, retail, hotel. If anyone has any questions, Sean could come to the microphone and detail that work. I don't think that that is currently zoned that, but that zoning classification would be, in my mind, exactly what this community would support. Condition B is that, let's see, that
we're going to remove it.
Yeah.
Pump station.
Well, the pump station is another one. That's not B, but item B has to do with the closing of streets that are bordered on both sides by Mr. Glover's property. Again, in terms of moving forward with a unit development or an opportunity down there, I think this city, without a doubt, would be interested in doing that. Number B, or number C is working with. There's one piece of property that is not under the ownership of. See, there's a Dr. Brainerd too. Dr. Brainerd and Mr. Glover are working as a team with regard to this real estate, and there's one parcel that is yet to be acquired, and there is some strong effort being made to acquire that parcel, and certainly to the extent that the city can legally make an effort to see that property is utilized for development. I don't think there's a question that that's something that this community would be interested in. That this city doesn't have any interest in obtaining any additional property in that area by eminent domain. And again, you've heard me, and I would hope that, and I hope and feel that this council would go along with that. That my major interest has been on behalf of the community to go down to the Presidential Library Bridge for the reasons that I mentioned, and at least with regard to the real estate in that area, I certainly don't feel that the city would have any desire to purchase any additional property. I'm sure we have a desire to assist with the development of that. That's the main reason that I've been encouraging us to support that library bridge, because of the potential for development that it brings. And the final condition, it's really not a pump station. It did function in that way for some period of time. I talked to Mr. Mills today, and that's about a 10 by 10 or 12 by 12 foot building just immediately west of the north end of the bridge on the side of the seawall. And that is currently, to the extent that it's being used, there's some function as stormwater drainage, and I know that whatever we need to do to retain that utility function, we certainly intend to do, but to the extent that structure is not needed, then part of the negotiations involve the city in taking that down. But obviously, again, we would retain any easements that had to do with stormwater drainage and or existing utilities that would be in that area. Those are the principal conditions. There's some other language in there. I'll let Mr. Susky comment on that. If Mr. Harden has any desire to comment on any of this, I think it's a real opportunity for the city to move forward in partnerships with Dr. Brainerd and Roy Glover, as well as other property owners down there, to move forward in a fairly rapid way to secure the commitment of the Clinton Foundation to build the bridge, and to do so with all of us being a team and trying to accomplish what all of us are interested in. Just a second. Mr. Susky, you have any quick comments, and then I'll open it for the floor.
Yes, as the contract was originally drafted, I had a few concerns, but Mr. Harden and I worked on the telephone late this afternoon, and were able to iron those out. I think these conditions are very feasible and doable, and I think it's clear that, with the partnership we'll have under this contract, it'll help develop the property around the bridge for the future Presidential Library.
Alderman Thomas.
Mr. Glover has certainly been a long time friend of mine, and I know what he wants to do down there will be in keeping with what we want to do. We used the word a little while ago, support, in making it a C6 zone. This council does the rezoning. We're saying that we'll rezone that to C6 for him, aren't we?
That's essentially, we're saying we're going to exercise the efforts of this council, and that is our intent. That's correct. Any other questions?
One, Mayor, under B, when we abandon that portion of Ferry Street, shown as Ferry Avenue on here. There are some utility easements in there, and we need to make sure we retain those.
Yeah, that is a traditional practice, and I know
And
Alderman,
so-
you're very good at keeping that language
Well,
in there.
the one thing, because I think that there are a few things that perhaps need to be done, that if we could change in Section 1 of the ordinance itself, or the resolution itself, then that Section 1 would read that the mayor and city clerk are hereby authorized to enter into and execute a contract substantially similar to Exhibit A attached. That would give you all the opportunity to put in those little things. That's an amendment.
Second.
Okay.
Motion made and
Okay.
seconded that, do you see, Ms. Whitby, have you got that down?
Yes, sir.
I think
That the mayor and, what was your language?
that the mayor and city clerk, just to take out the word "which is attached to" hereto as Exhibit A, change "which is attached hereto" to the word substantially similar to. And the reason that I would like to have that, there's going to be a little bit of wording changing that's probably going to need to be done in regard to utility easements specifically, and to make sure that in the pump station area, I know that that we will dedicate to them that property. There only is a problem there, but to make sure that we retain those easements if there are any there.
Motion made and seconded, Alderman Thomas.
I think I know Alderman Gibson's point, but I wanted to ask the city attorney, is that necessary?
Actually, I advise that Mr. Harden's in agreement that in case there's some minor thing we need to get corrected, we don't have to come back to the city council. And it's kind of been more of a practice of my office to include that language in case there's a typo or a legal description has a incorrect number in it and so forth.
We're on the motion to amend, Alderman.
All to amend? No, that's it.
Okay, we're on the motion to amend. Ms. Whitby?
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Dobbins?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
Witcher?
Alderman?
Mr. Sisson, we discussed the money today. I'm always have to do that.
Yes, sir. We have $59,000 in a fund we call Capital Improvement Fund. And if it's your desire, we need to change the appropriation to $59,000 from the Capital Improvement Fund, and then $41,000 plus closing costs from the general fund.
And that's my motion.
And I would assume that there may be some cost if we tear that building down. So I would say, that plus cost, any reasonable cost associated with the fulfilling of the covenants or the conditions in this. You got that, Ms. Whitby?
Yes, sir.
That's kind of a broad way to say it, but
Very.
$59,000 from the Capital Improvement Fund, and the remainder from the general fund, remaining $100,000 plus cost associated with
Remainder of the total of $100,000 plus any cost in association, including the removal of that building.
Right.
That.
And is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
On the motion to amend?
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Dobbins?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Motion to adopt, Alderman Gibson, as amended.
Move to adopt as amended.
Is there a
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Dobbins?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Gentlemen, again, I want to thank Mr. Harden. You can let your clients know we very much appreciate their cooperation, and I will contact the foundation. We look forward to working to fulfill these representations, these conditions, moving toward closing. But even more importantly, I think all of us are excited about the opportunities that this brings the citizens of our community, your clients, and the north side of the river. Thank you very much, Alderman Gibson.
Mayor, there's a procedure where we can bring a rezoning direct to the city council without going through planning. I would ask that the city attorney prepare that legislation and request that the planning commission notify those owners who are within that period of time of a public hearing to be set. And our clock's ticking. We have 3 months to do it in. I would say a public hearing at the second meeting in June.
Let me also indicate, I know that in our discussions, when we came up with this recommendation to the council. We all know the names of Rhett Tucker and Jimmy Moses. They also represent Dr. Brainerd and Mr. Glover. And one of the things, and I was certainly pleased to hear them say this, that they are very excited about the opportunities for development of this property. As we all know, they were some of the principal architects of the development of the river project. The river market. And one of the recommendations that they made, that I guess was similar to what happened on the south side, was that we do some very sincere land use planning for that area, and even suggested, that we might consider someone of the talent that worked on the south side. I forgot the name of the consultant right now. I think he's out of Baltimore or Washington, somewhere like that does a lot of that kind of work. Unless there is some, and no one needs to make any comments now, but it would be my intent to perhaps frame some legislation and maybe move forward in that direction. I know we have one study. In fact, we've got some legislation on this agenda tonight to try to acquire $15,000 to help support that study for the aquarium project, and so we've done some work, but I would certainly look forward to perhaps taking that offer up and moving it down the road a little bit. I think with what we've done tonight, that area of our city is looking forward to a truly new renaissance. I might also add that my conversations with the highway department, that the widening of East Broadway is on the program, and there might possibly be construction that could start as early as late 2003. Certainly maybe in 2004. So with that, and with the adoption of this tonight, what we've all been working for a number of years for the eastern side of our city is again, with the legislation we adopted vis-a-vis the Corps of Engineers and the Dark Hollow drainage. I think we're moving very strongly in accomplishing what we've been working for many years to try to do. With that, next item.
Resolution 0282, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution authorizing a tourism attraction feasibility study grant application for $15,000 in matching funds from the Arkansas Department of Parks and Tourism.
Move for adoption.
That question.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second. My only question makes more of a recommendation that not only we look at the aquarium part of that, also look at the feasibility of an amusement park also, because you're seeing a lot of site destinations that are out there. Even Las Vegas has changed its ways and what we want to do is make sure it encompasses the whole family. And yes, someone may like the aquarium, but they may have kids or grandchildren that want to go to the amusement park. We got to make this a regional destination. And I think it's important to impress upon those who will do this study to not limit itself into just those who would be attracted to the aqua world, if you would, but those that would like the outdoor side of it. And I think we have a lot of opportunities here with marinas and other things of the like, as well as the botanical gardens as we go eastward. So I think we need to make sure I want to define the scope of this study. And if you have that information, you can tell me, but I'd like to really add those. If those items aren't in that scope, I'd like those to be included.
We'll certainly, and as we move forward, certainly I think the response to the interest of the community is going to be taken into consideration very strongly. And let me just add, you're talking about shopping. Tomorrow we're going to have the opportunity to, and I understand it's been open for a few days now, help formally cut the ribbon for a brand new home improvement facility. Lowe's is open for business and generating sales tax, I'm happy to say. So any of you who are shopping that part of the country next to the McCain Mall area, right across from its earlier cousin Home Depot, Lowe's is now in business. So
Ward 1 needs the tax money.
We're pleased to help support Ward 1.
Well, Ward 2.
All right, on the motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Gilding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Berry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Resolution 0283, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution approving the sale of 18,189 plus square feet of property in the Westgate area to Harvey W. and Loretta L. Joyner.
Move
Mayor,
the adoption.
Is there a second?
The attachment is
Just a
not,
second. Is there a second?
yes, I'll second it.
All right.
The drawing is not attached to this.
It's
Okay.
The drawing nor the legal description, so.
I'm concerned about the zoning of it.
Tell you what, while we circulate that around, let me put that on hold and go back to, while Ms. Bowman is circulating that around. I understand, I asked that we hold R 0271. I was not aware that, several steps have been taken that caused me to hold that last time regarding the incorporation of the group that wanted to rent the old J.C. building. So, Ms. Whitby, while they look at this, can I call that piece of legislation back without objection?
Yes, sir. This is a resolution authorizing a lease of certain city property to the Argenta City Club and for other purposes.
Move for adoption.
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson,
Yes.
Yielding,
Yes.
Dobbins,
Yes.
Thomas.
I want to have a question, but I guess it's too late.
Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. We'll stop it.
How long is that lease now? Is it
10 years.
10 years.
20-year, wouldn't it?
For 10 years.
Well, I think there might be some options to renew, but...
But options for 50 days, that's
10
interesting.
years with 10-year, 1-year options. Is that what it is?
Ms. Susky?
Give me a second, look back over this. It's been a couple weeks.
The Mayor, if I may, it's a 10-year lease with an option for 50 years. That's a typo in the contract.
That's a major typo.
Yeah, it's a big one. It was patterned after the Junior League lease almost verbatim.
And Mr. Smith?
Well, Mr. Smith, come back up. I tell you what, we've started a discussion on this, so I'm going to, without objection again, going to reverse the vote and start into discussion. Mr. Smith, you stand for questions, and we're going to leave the motion for adoption, the motion and second on the floor, but I'm going to uncall the vote if I can do that. We need to correct that typo.
Let's get back to this one and come back to that other one altogether.
Which one you want to do?
We're on the R0283, which is the one that has the drawing that we're trying to figure out where the property is.
All right. We're popping around tonight. So, Ms. Whitby, if you'll bear with...
Okay, Mayor, I need to withdraw.
Gotcha.
At this point, then I need to withdraw my motion on 71.
And I second it, so I'll withdraw that, and let's get back to this.
I think we tied.
This is a vacant piece, this is the vacant piece of property that's in the curve.
Ms. Bowman, you want to come up to the microphone?
After the first, there's a...
It's right next to Joyner Brokerage.
Okay.
And it's right between his business and the electric substation,
This is over at Smart House Way.
Smart House Drive.
Is that Arco Smart House?
And they want to expand their business.
They're right. That's correct. Mr. Joyner is here.
I have no objection, I'm just trying to figure out where the piece of property was.
Yeah, it's immediately, you know where our substation is at the end of Smart House Way? And Mr. Joyner's property is on the, excuse me? Yeah, the first building, right, there's only vacant land between the substation and Mr. Joyner's building on the north side of Smart House Way. And he has a desire to expand that building and wants to acquire some of our property immediately west of his existing property line.
I understand. I had no objection, I just want to know what we were selling.
That's fine. Alderman Vestal?
How did we come up with this figure?
We had it appraised.
Okay. And property on a 4-lane new street is, and I guess this fronts on that, it does it not? Yes, it does. That property is worth less than $2 a square foot.
Well, you've got to remember, the substation, electric substation is right next to it, too. So it's a somewhat of a small piece of property. We're halving that Lot 3. Half will be for the electric substation in case they need to expand, and then the other half is what Mr. Joyner would like to purchase.
Not much of an opportunity to utilize that property for a whole lot else other than what the adjoining property owner, right, one Alderman, I think probably is what had something to do with it. Alderman Height?
I'm just curious as to what kind of businesses, what are we talking about here? What?
Mr.
Food broker?
Right.
You're going to expand your food brokerage, dude.
He's not going to build a strip club.
I'm not worried about it, but I know
Wait a
him back
minute,
from when I was...
we've kind of gone off about half a dozen different directions, so we're going to try to get back into the semblance of order here.
Is this where the Arkla Smart House, is the Arkla?
It's across the street.
Across the street, okay.
Actually, across the street from that piece of property.
Behind it.
Okay.
All right, do you want to do a motion again?
I so move.
Second.
And I think your motion also incorporates the attachment of...
Attaching this drawing, which
one of these-
hopefully we can get it into a smaller size so it can be filed.
All right, so a smaller size of that is intended to be incorporated with this. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion?
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Dobbins?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Now go to the next one.
Okay, now we're back to R71.
Did you want to go back to 71?
Yeah, just go ahead and read the number again.
The resolution 0271. This is a resolution authorizing a lease of certain city property to the Argenta City Club.
Mayor, I had requested 2 amendments of Mr. Sutt to prepare in regard to this. One of them was a cleanup and the other one is a reversion clause.
Yes, and what that would be in Section 2 of the contract, the following sentence would be added. Either party may terminate this agreement with 90 days' notice. So although theoretically it can be extended for 60 years, the city's in 90 days' notice could get out of the contract. And the second...
After how long?
90 days' notice.
With after the first 10 years or immediately?
At any time.
Well, the only thing I might mention, Alderman, I know they're talking about putting, $30,000, $40,000 into this. I don't know that would be real, I'd be real enthused to doing that with a 90-day termination clause.
We've got to find something because you've got a 10-year with a 50-year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's no way that the city could ever ask for it back within 60 years because it's an automatic 50-year extension. That may be how some of our others are done, but if they are, I would go back. I'd like to go back and look at them. And I don't. If our
I believe it probably gives you 2 outs in that contract. What Paul just added, and there's also another out in there. I think this group of men are aware of this, and I'm sure that they're also very comfortable, Mr. Grayson, with the thought that you wouldn't jerk this building out from underneath them if they just put $30,000 into it. So I don't think they've got a problem with that, and I don't think that they've got a problem if you wanted to omit the 50-year option and maybe turn it to a 5-year option. Again, we were just trying to make ourselves easy because of we already had the lease drawn up with the Junior League. The Women's City Club has a 25-year lease and a 25-year clause, and then the Home and Hall's got a 100-year lease. So we took the smallest of them all.
we sometimes learn from our mistakes.
Yeah, we took the smallest and the shortest lease of them all to try to satisfy.
I don't want to do anything that's going to hamper their ability to use it, but I've got a lot of battle scars over getting that building back for a specific use.
We were there together.
I know we were, and then all of a sudden the use we got it back for was no longer desired. And so then we have a building that's there which has a lot of good visibility, and I think they could. I saw their incorporation papers the other day. I see where they're going with it, and I'm happy with it. But I think as we look at it, let's do a series of options in there that the city can do, and maybe it's 10-year with an initial 10-year option, and then we can go back in and go from there. But if it's no longer, as of this, if the club decides not to continue to operate but continue to hold their charter, they just keep the building.
That's not their intention from what
Well,
I
I know
understand.
it's not their intention, but
Why-
it
why
wasn't
don't-
it
why
wasn't
don't
the
we do-
JC's intention to give it up either.
If you wanted to
Why
change
don't,
it,
excuse me a second. Why don't we do 10 years with roll over 10-year options to renew? So every 10 years, the council has an opportunity to mutually, by mutual agreement, there will be a renewal of a 10-year option upon the expiration of the preceding 10-year option.
I'll offer that amendment. I'm sitting over thinking the same thing.
It's just a minute.
Does that
That's fine, and if it's no longer used for the specific purpose to which, or specific purpose for which it was leased, that it would revert to the city.
Okay. You got that, and then we'll talk about that amendment. You got that amendment, Mrs. Whitby?
No, sir.
All right, Mr. Susky, help me.
I'm working on it.
Okay. He's writing as fast as he can write.
Something to get it. Mayor?
Then we go all the way around the room, I'm through.
Just 1 second. Let's get that amendment, and then we can
Well, I can talk while he's doing that.
go ahead if you want to talk on the amendment.
Well, what I was going to say is, I know that they're going to do it right, but I don't want to bind a future council and the mayor long after we're dead and gone. And I think that it would be good that they have those points that either one could withdraw or come out of the agreement. Now, 100 years, if you say that's out in Hohen Hall, I don't know, but that's a small little building, not like this property up there.
Well, right now, you got it, Mr. Susky?
Not quite.
All right, essentially, the amendment we're requesting is that this be able to be renewed. This first term is a 10-year term, and that it be renewed by mutual agreement of the parties, on a 10-year rolling basis.
I have amend section 13 to say that both parties at the end of the 10 years, scratch that, at the end of the 10 years of this contract, both parties have the option to extend the lease for an additional 10 years.
And then after that 10 years.
Mutual consent.
I mean,
Yes, both
that
parties.
continues, not just an additional 10 years, but it's my intent that amendment indicate that at the end of each term, then by mutual agreement, another 10 years can be added to it.
Is that a rollover contract? Is it a rollover term, rollover
Not
provision?
fully, nope.
I mean, every 10 years,
Then I add which may be repeated each subsequent 10 years.
Sounds good. All right, now, is that your motion? Sort of mine, but is there a second? All right, now on the motion to amend with regard to that issue, any discussion on that? Ms. Whitby?
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Dobbins?
Yes.
Thomas?
No.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
All right, do I have a motion to adopt?
Well, I want to deal with
All right.
if it's no longer used for its intended, and y'all need to help word that. And I'm simply trying to avoid what we got into. There's a lot of history in regard to that building. The city furnished the land, and it was built by hand labor of JCs from across the state. The city has no investment in the building. We own the land. And so, and then in that clause was a reversion clause. And because they had used that property for non-501c uses, they had built up $16,000 in unpaid county taxes.
Would there be something to the effect, Mr. Susky, that, I'm sure that the corporation has, a provision in there that indicates the purpose of that corporation? So would it be feasible to simply say that, the purposes reflected in the articles of incorporation, as long as, until those uses, well, however you want to phrase it, but essentially that if those uses, if the purpose is still being fulfilled by the corporation, then the lease continues. If not, then it reverts back.
We can add that, but I believe we already have a couple items in paragraph 4 that the lessee shall not permit waste. Obviously, if the building's standing there doing nothing, they're in breach. Additionally, they have to carry a liability insurance if they're not paying that thousands of
I think what
dollars.
Alderman Gibson talking about, and what I'm interested in, and I don't think there's any question that these gentlemen wouldn't do that, but this thing is going on for a long time, we hope. If they wanted to open up a pool hall in there and donate the purpose, the benefits to, so we want something in there to, and I'm not trying to discourage arena billiards by any means, But we want that building to be used for the purposes indicated in the articles of incorporation.
That's right. And I'll make that I think it's in there. If it's not, I'll make that as a motion.
It's not.
Okay.
Under 4.
Yeah, just one second. Let's
Still
get
on that
this.
amendment?
And can we speak on that amendment?
You sure can, Mr. Seskey, whenever you're ready.
Cameras.
If the property is not used as reflected by the existing articles of incorporation of the leasee, the property shall revert to the leaseor. And that would be a paragraph 18.
That's Alderman Gibson's motion. Is there a second?
Second.
On the motion to amend? Or anybody want to speak to the motion to amend?
Aye.
On the motion to amend?
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Dobbins?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes. Move for adoption.
Now, I got a question.
All right, let's go ahead. Second. Motion made and seconded. State your question.
My question is, just tell me, who can join this club, or what's just someone tell me
Grayson,
the
you want to come to the
whole
microphone?
purpose of it, and
Alderman is envisioned right now largely to be by invitation. The physical size of the building is going to have some constraints on the size of the membership. We really have, until we're still, this is just evolving. We haven't set any finite limits, don't have any plans or any finite thoughts on that subject yet. So it's, I can't give you a very definitive answer at this time.
what's the primary objective of it? I saw some charities for North Little Rock.
Yes, one of the things we've done is we've assumed the duties of the Wildcat Foundation, which was established about 6 years ago to raise money to contribute scholarships to a senior every year and to provide a vehicle for our corporate citizens to make contributions that would benefit the school district, but by law, they're not allowed to give money to the school district, for instance. And so the Wildcat Foundation had provided that venue. We've used it a couple with the Levi Foundation, gave us some money for something for Greg Burl in the athletic department a couple of years ago. And so we see a continuation of that avenue. And again, some of the other things we've tossed around, but no firm decisions have been made yet.
Alderman?
Who pays the real estate tax?
I assume the lessee pays.
No, there are no taxes.
There are none.
No,
It's
that's what I was thinking.
city-owned property.
City-owned, yeah.
Yeah, there is none. That was one of my point, I guess, that we're going to...
Which brings up a point which,
I'm sorry, Alderman Thomas.
I'm sorry.
You still got-
Well, that's one of the points I had. You know, there's other properties around town, they're paying real estate. That could be sold for a purpose, for taxes. That's the reason I was concerned.
the one thing we have to be careful is the uses of this, and I think we've learned our lesson from the airport decision when we had to write a check, is that we be very specific, and their lease is very specific as to what they can use the building for. And I know that we in turn at times have leased property for a long term, and you go by and find out that it's being used for a different purpose, and that purpose could require us to pay property taxes. I'm ready to vote, Mayor.
Motion made and seconded. On the motion, Ms. Whitby.
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Dobbins?
Yes.
Thomas?
No.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes. Move for adoption as amended.
Second.
That
I think we
was
just
as
did.
amended.
Is that what we did?
That's what we
did.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Next item, Resolution 0284. Mayor
Please
Hayes.
call it.
This is a resolution appropriating $9,100 for consultant services by Wilbur Smith and Associates for the Airport Commission.
Move for the adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Dobbins?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Resolution 0285. Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution appropriating $47,193.43 for extending the design and construction inspection of Phase 4B streetscape enhancements along Main Street from 6th Street to 8th Street.
Move for adoption.
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Dobbins?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Can I ask a Martin question before I answer?
I guess so.
Where's this money coming from?
Well, this money is coming from the capital improvement.
Is that where it's from? Okay. Yes.
Witcher.
Yes.
Resolution 0286, Alderman Berry.
Says it right there.
Alderman
Do you
Berry.
have to write that in? You have to write that in.
No, it's not. Yes, call please.
A resolution repealing Resolution Number 6268, which declared 412 Rock Street a nuisance and condemned it.
Move for adoption.
Second.
On the motion. On the motion.
Can somebody explain
Yeah.
it?
I can.
Okay.
I guess he just wasn't paying attention. He hasn't finished with his contents insurance yet. And he does actually plan to rebuild the structure. And I talked to Gary Sipes, and we talked about it. And I decided to bring it back so he could take care of his contents insurance and make a move to get the property, because it'd be better for us if there's a house rebuilt there than us owning an empty lot.
How long does he get to?
Well, Gary's going to keep pretty close tabs on it. I imagine within about 30 days, we're going to be looking for a construction permit.
Mr. Sykes, you got any comments on this legislation?
Like Alderman Berry said, the individuals had some bad luck, and we had a hard time getting a hold of him. When we finally got a hold of him, he had a reasonable explanation. And Alderman Berry has talked to him, and he's agreed that within 90 days he should be complete with this project.
So you don't have a problem with trying to go down this road?
No, sir.
All right. Alderman
Just wants to
Thomas?
stay there.
I guess, was it the Alderman asked for it in the first place? They're asking.
Excuse me?
Are they the ones that asked for it to be
No, I'm
condemned?
sure I was the one that asked for it in the first place. That's the way we used to do it, so. Alderman Bethel?
Mayor, I'd like to make this valid for 60 days and then possibly bring in legislation to, can we?
Mr. Susky?
Yeah, my advice would be to go ahead and pass it, and then if no work's done in 60 days or to your satisfaction, refile the legislation condemning it.
Why don't you convey, Mr. Susky and Mr. Sipes, I'm going to, with Alderman Vestal's concurrent, I want condemnation legislation filed on the 61st day if, to your satisfaction, progress isn't being made. Does that help, Mr. Vestal?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any further discussion? I think there's been a motion made and seconded on adopting this on
Yes,
the
sir.
motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Berry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Resolution 0287, Alderman Gibson.
Call it, please.
A resolution repealing Resolution Number 6311, which declared 2023 Willow Street a nuisance and condemned it.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Discussion.
Very similar circumstances. The gentleman who owned this house has a construction loan and was supposed to have started on it. He has moved, I think, 4 times in the process, and much like the other one, I'd rather see that house rebuilt there than to have a vacant lot on it. But there again, if he hasn't started the progress within 60 days, I think we should do the same thing, and that's just go back in and refile.
Same request, and I assume you support this also?
Yes, sir.
Same request, Mr. Sipes, if on the 61st day, to your satisfaction, progress isn't being made, we want to refile this. On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Berry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Next item, ordinance 0244, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
This is an ordinance amending North Little Rock Municipal Ordinance Number 7176, the signed ordinance. First reading.
Just go ahead. Unless
Move
there's a-
suspend rules, place on second reading.
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Berry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
An ordinance amending North Little Rock Municipal Ordinance Number 7176, the signed ordinance. Second reading.
Move to suspend the rules, place on its third reading, then have a question.
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Berry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
An ordinance amending North Little Rock Municipal Ordinance Number 7176, the signed ordinance, third and final reading.
My question is, how does, I know we're talking about different events, you know, the Run for the Cure and things like that, but some people use signs and banners for political reasons too. How would this really affect that, or will it not affect it, since you're not going to advertise, you know, Miller beer with it? I don't know.
Well, it would be the intent, and I know I had a visit with Alderman Yielding, and I don't certainly don't have a problem, and if Mr. Susky wants to find a place to stick in there, you've done a lot of mending tonight that would indicate that, you know, the mayor's designee and/or the Parks Commissioner or their designee, however that wording is, you know, would formally adopt a permit issuance procedure and set up a policy with regard to the issuance of these in accordance with the adoption of this legislation. You know, if you can find a way while I go ahead and explain what my intent is. Obviously, you know, there will be no political or commercial. Now, obviously, there may be some commercial because, you know, some of these sponsors of different activities, you know, and I don't necessarily, I mean, I read the editorial in the Times. You know, I don't have a problem with if the council wanted to put a certain percentage of the sign, you know, could only be utilized for commercial endorsements. You know, but by and large, I think, you know, you're exactly, and I would intend to do that by my own procedure if the council didn't adopt that as a formal requirement in terms of the permitting. But obviously, what the intent is for, you know, different kinds of events, you know, things that were going on in the park. No political sign would be able to be utilized, and only commercial to the extent that they were sponsoring a worthwhile and charitable kind of civic oriented event. You know, and those are generally the kinds of activities that I think you know, we wanted a Christmas parade, the Sonoma Christmas parade. Different things that the community would be interested in that we would authorize to utilize our right-of-way, but the permit process would equally underline the fact that once that event was over with, you know, that whoever was the sponsor would then be required to remove that in the condition of receiving the permit.
So this would affect only the banners that are effectively above the city's right-of-way?
Well, no, it could affect above and on the right-of-way. You know, some temporary signage that might be on the right-of-way, not just above it, but also on it.
Okay.
Alderman Yielding?
I thought this didn't deal with right-of-way. I thought this dealt with city property or property in the parks.
That's
Well,
right-of-ways.
That's right-of-way.
That's right-of-way. I mean, you got to...
So you mean you could, like, say you could put it down the right-of-way anywhere?
In some instances, but certainly not ones that would, you know, would disrupt the flow of traffic. But the answer to that is, unless Mr. Susky tells me different, that's what this legislation would permit.
Yeah, I
You
agree.
got signage on the right-of-way out at the park. You know, I think that's what they're talking about. So the answer to that would be yes.
So up JFK or
In the median?
down Parkway or in the medians?
If Park Hill Elementary is having an open house and they needed a sign in there, I think it's very appropriate that the parents have that reminder that it's there, as long as it's there on a very short-term basis.
And
Which
that
is,
they remove it.
and they remove it on as soon as that event is over.
All right, I have another question. Statement. The State Highway Department has I think it's a good permitting process. Like, let's say if we want to put a banner over JFK, we actually get our permit from the State Highway Department to put that banner over JFK. Now, the State Highway Department does not allow any advertisement from any, like if it was a Coke banner or whatever, they don't allow that. It can only say, you know, if it has to be the Civic, the Argenta Club or whatever, or the like Park Hill Historic District open house, Christmas open house or something. You know, they wanted to make sure that there were no, you know, advertisements of any kind on the banners that would be over the state right-of-way. and then they have a process in just a one-page form that they use. I think it would be good to get what they do and do that.
I will say this, because I know that there are some that pay for that, and there are some organizations that help sponsor different civic events, and obviously it is for commercial reasons. We've got Pepsi signs all over our park with the scoreboards out there. So, it would be my intent, unless I'm directed otherwise to the council, to allow a portion, 20%. I think that was a percentage used. Of that, if that organization or that commercial operation is sponsoring it, unless directed otherwise to the council, it'd be my intent to permit that.
Well, aren't there standard size banners that sponsors Coke or whoever? I mean, they're.
Well, there could be, but I would probably put a percentage on there, the size of the banner, not to.
He's talking about the percentage of the advertisement.
Size of the logo or the, okay.
A percentage of the size of the, if you got.
But there's an
banner
industry
that was
standard.
10 square feet and 2 square feet, that could be used for whoever the sponsor was, if it was a commercial operation. So, unless directed otherwise, that would be my intent because of the likelihood of different civic organizations partnering with commercial operations.
But I was going to say, there's an industry standard in what we are to do. I mean, if we put that language in this, we just go with industry standard rather than us deciding what the.
I think that's
Otherwise,
what the challenge uses 20. But they come every year. They donate a lot of money back.
I guess, yeah, and that's why I would go forward with authorizing a commercial portion of that, because they partner with our civic and charitable organization. I'm gonna try to develop a relatively simple procedure. 20% would be what I would do.
Industry standard.
If the council wants to give me any instructions otherwise, then that's fine. We're on, where are we, Ms. Whitby?
It's been read 3 times.
Do I have a motion to adopt? Alderman, I'm sorry, Mr. Sutsky?
Yeah, Mayor, you wanted an amendment for the issuance procedure. I would add under Section 1, Section 83-31, that a C be added, and it state, a permit issuance procedure shall be created by the mayor and the Parks Commission to implement Section 83-31A and 83-31B.
Is there a motion on that?
So moved.
Second. On the motion to amend?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes, move for adoption is amended.
Second. On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
On the emergency, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Next item is ordinance 0245, Alderman Yielding.
Call it.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 7449, first reading.
Move to suspend the rules, place on second reading.
Second. On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 7449, second reading.
I want to move to suspend the rules and place on third reading, and I want to stop and discuss it when
All
we
right.
get there.
Second. On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
Witcher.
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 7449, third and final reading.
Alderman Gibson?
Explain it.
Yeah, go ahead, explain it.
Okay,
It's that
the-
one section that,
Ordinance number 7449 that we passed the last meeting that dealt with street cuts and permit fees. There is a section, paragraph F of section 3, and it called for a $2 per day permit fee for temporary repairs. And that was really unintended for that to be in there. There was already a permit fee based on the street cut, and then this would actually put another $2 on there, and that wasn't the intention. So this just deletes that $2 per day for temporary. So you'd be paying a temporary fee, because hopefully you would temporary do it until you permanently repaired it. So this just cuts that out.
Motion to adopt?
yes.
Yeah, motion, second. On the motion, Ms. Whitby?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
Witcher.
Yes.
The emergency, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Dobbins.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Does that do it, Ms. Whitby?
Yes, sir.
Any council members?
Mr. Mayor, one thing I know I've had several calls about, on Glendon Drive, all of the residents on that street there have requested a speed hump, and I think our traffic department is recommending that none be placed there. And I know two of them said they'd called in during the time that they were to make comment and couldn't get anybody. So I hope that we reconsider that, because those people are very concerned about it. Also, about the center of that block, when it rains real hard, you can't go down the street. I know I've been out a couple of times with Mr. Ward as much as 2 or 3 years ago. We still need to do something there about that drainage that's stopped up, because you can't use the street when it comes a heavy rain. And it's another problem at 161, and that's not our problem, that's the highway department, but you can't use that underpass. Many people are trying to go down and use this, and they can't get through there either because it's flooded out. So I'd like to bring, I think I will bring a resolution in to go ahead and include Glenda Drive in our streets where we're going to place these speed humps.
Alderman Dobbins? Alderman Hike?
Someone from street departments here.
Mr. Ward's here.
But he's around. Okay, good. Along with those calls that Alderman Thomas got, I got another call also about Emily, about the 300 block of Emily. And the concern is the ditch that sits right out there. That from time to time, yes, the city comes out and cleans it out, but they want to know what's the process of getting it filled. So the water doesn't particularly drain anywhere. It's there. And it's a pretty deep little culvert, and sometimes you see some elderly people out there trying to cut into that ditch there to keep the grass down. So we want to make sure that we get something done on that, fill it, and also, of course, they also like that street improved also. But if we can get the ditch filled properly, that would be a real good start.
We'll take a look at it.
Okay,
See
good.
what we can do.
I'd like to add one moment to that too. I know even when Dr. DeBim was on here, we tried to get that taken care of, and we've been that long working on that for the brewers there.
Alderman Height and then Alderman Vestal.
While Mr. Ward's there, I just want to thank him for the progress you made on North Hills Boulevard in the last 2 weeks. So.
We'll finish when it quits raining.
We needed that rain that we got last night.
Oh, yeah, we did, but we didn't need it to overlay on.
And don't run off, Mr. Ward. I want to visit with you about our conversation this morning and find out where we are. Mr. Vestal?
Mr. Ward, would you please take a look at Marion between 43rd and 47th, sir?
Okay.
Take it out.